Sometimes the emptiness is just the echo of a suffocated soul. What if what you call emptiness isn't absence, but overflow? Overflow of swallowed silences, words stuck in your throat, feelings buried deep in the basement of your soul. What if it's not a lack of meaning, but the saturation of failed attempts to be heard, even by yourself? You've learned to smile even when you didn't want to keep going, even when every part of you begged for a pause, to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders and still feel it wasn't enough. But at night, on your pillow, when the world goes quiet, there's a sound that refuses to leave. It's not music, it's not noise, it's an echo. Cold, repetitive, deep, as if your soul itself were trying to call you back. That echo isn't madness, isn't weakness. It's just you trying to remember that you still exist. Pause. Breathe. Before you go back to blaming yourself, pushing through, pretending, listen to that echo. It might be saying everything you've been silencing for years. You wake up, but you don't really awaken. Your body gets up, but your soul is still lying down somewhere dark inside your mind. You go through the motions. You shower. You reply to messages. You deliver what's expected. And on the outside, everything looks fine. But on the inside, there's a weariness no one sees. A kind of tiredness that has no name. It's not just physical, not just mental. It's an exhaustion of being. As if your soul has been carrying an invisible weight, not on your shoulders, but pressed deep into your chest. It's the heaviness of holding back when you wanted to scream, of smiling when you wanted to vanish, of being strong when all you longed for was a quiet, understanding hug. And the cruelest part? This kind of tiredness leaves no evidence, no fever, no test, no bruise. Just a blank stare, endless scrolling, and a dull ache where excitement used to live. You try to rest, but sleep brings no relief. You try to distract yourself, but nothing has color anymore. You try to explain, but who really listens? You don't want attention. You just want to feel again. But the emptiness has taken shape, and now it lives there, between one thought and the next, between one obligation and another. In that quiet space where your aliveness used to be, it's not laziness, it's not drama, it's just a body trying to keep going, and a soul quietly begging to stop pretending. Maybe you're just tired of not being yourself. There's a scream stuck somewhere between your chest and your throat, a scream that doesn't come out, but never really leaves. It hides behind half-spoken sentences, behind, "I'm fine," even when you're not, behind forced smiles, accepted, obligations, and conversations where your body shows up, but your soul stays absent. This scream has no sound, but it consumes. It's like an invisible knot, slowly tightening, as if every swallowed feeling were forming a stone. And day after day, those stones build a wall between you and the world. You've tried to speak. You've tried to open up. But all you got in return was judgment, impatience, recycled advice. They said you were overreacting, that you think too much, that you have no reason to feel this way. So you learned to stay silent, to hide, to adapt. You became an expert at looking strong, at making jokes out of your pain, at pretending. Your chest doesn't hurt when it's screaming inside, but some days it overflows. And that muffled scream begins to show up in your movements, in your distant gaze, in your need to be alone, in the quiet wish to disappear, not out of weakness, but from sheer exhaustion. Because it's not just the world that weighs heavy, it's everything you never said, Everything you swallowed to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. That scream isn't rage. It's grief. Grief for everything you weren't allowed to feel, for how long you've kept yourself quiet, just to survive. But you still have a voice, even if it shakes, even if it's buried, even if it only exists within you. And maybe today is the day to finally listen to it. Some silences soothe. They're like a gentle hand on your shoulder, a warm blanket, a safe pause. But others are deafening. There's a silence that doesn't rest. It scratches. It waits. It invades. You lie down seeking peace. But instead, you find 1,000 echoes bouncing inside your head. Thoughts you've pushed aside all day come crawling back. Questions with no answers. Voices with your tone, but none of your kindness. And it's strange, because the room is completely quiet. No cars, no clocks, no one calling your name. But still, it's loud. Loud in a way that only someone emotionally exhausted could understand. It's like your soul is trying to speak, but all it has left is static. You try to run from it. Music, screens, messages, snacks, tasks. Any noise will do. Any noise feels safer than being left alone with your own silence. Because silence isn't empty. Silence remembers. It holds everything you didn't process. It holds the grief you minimized, the anger you buried, the dreams you let dissolve in the name of being realistic. It becomes a mirror, not of who you show the world, but of who you've silenced within yourself. And in that mirror, you see someone tired, someone trying, someone who's been holding too much for too long, in silence. You've been strong, quietly. You've endured, quietly. You've broken, quietly. So when the silence comes, don't just fill it. Don't fight it. Try, sitting with it, not to solve, not to understand, but to witness, to offer yourself the presence no one else ever gave. Because sometimes, when even silence makes noise, it's not your mind breaking. It's your soul begging to be heard. Emptiness rarely arrives like a storm. It doesn't knock on your door or scream in your ear. It doesn't break things, at least not visibly. It just settles, quietly. At first, it's subtle. You cancel one plan, then two. Suddenly, the things that used to excite you begin to feel like chores. Joy becomes faint. Desire dulls. The world loses its contrast, not dark, but flat, and you don't understand why. There was no tragedy, no grand loss. Everything around you is fine. So why does everything inside you feel gone? That's the trap. You start to think something is wrong with you. You blame your lack of gratitude, your supposed weakness, your inability to push through. You call yourself lazy, broken, unworthy. But maybe what you call emptiness is just your soul finally stopping. Stopping because it's carried too much for too long. Because it's been forced to be productive when it needed to grieve. To smile when it needed space. To serve everyone but itself. This kind of emptiness is not about not having something. It's about having too little of yourself left. It's what happens when you live so much for others, for results, for expectations, that you lose the quiet connection with your own essence. And that emptiness? That scary, heavy, confusing space inside is not your enemy. It's a mirror, a reflection of how far you've drifted from your own center. A signal, a kind of soul thirst. Not for more, but for realness. For permission to feel again, to breathe, to rest. It's not the end, it's the invitation. Because sometimes, what looks like emptiness is actually your spirit returning home, hoping you'll sit with it long enough to recognize yourself again. You've spent so long trying to silence the echo that you forgot it never wanted to hurt you. It only ever wanted to become a voice. Not a loud voice, not a speech or a solution, but a soft, steady reminder. I'm still here. That echo, the one that haunted you in the quiet and followed you in the background of your thoughts, wasn't noise. It was a part of you that refused to die. A part you abandoned trying to become what the world expected. A part you buried while trying to survive. Now it's here, still whispering, still waiting. And maybe for the first time, you don't need to run from it. You don't need to analyze it, fix it, or dress it up in productivity. You just need to listen. Because healing doesn't begin with action. It begins with awareness, with presence, with the radical decision to not abandon yourself anymore. This isn't a motivational speech. It's not a call to rise and grind. It's a quiet invitation to come back, to return to the room inside you where your soul still breathes, even if faintly, even if bruised, because you were never really lost. You were just tired of pretending. And when you begin to listen, truly listen, the echo softens, the emptiness makes space, and your voice, your real voice, rises like a slow dawn. You don't need to scream to reclaim yourself. You don't need to prove anything to belong. Sometimes, the greatest revolution is to feel, fully, and still choose to stay. If this touched something inside you, maybe it's time to hear yourself with more gentleness. Subscribe, and let this be the beginning of a quieter, deeper conversation with your own mind.